Good morning. Happy Friday, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this morning and taking time out of your morning to spend time with Andy and I and talk about a critical topic here today. Andy, bringing the fire here. I love you bringing the fire, the fireside chat this morning. Looking good.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, if we're gonna do something, let's do it right. Face it till you make it. Make the magic happen.
For sure. Well, everyone, we're excited about this conversation this morning in the spirit of authentic connections. This will be a no filter conversation this morning. So if we sneak in a couple 4-letter words, we apologize in advance. If you have kids in the room, maybe throw some headphones on them. But Andy Wines, happy to have you here this morning, friend and client of ours as well, and partner. You'll catch Andy walking around our offices sometimes like he owns the joint. Love every minute of it. Veteran, single father, entrepreneur. Andy, tell us a little bit about yourself.
That's it. Military background, own a business, love being an entrepreneur and everything involved. And my passion is going out in this world. My why revolves around spending time with veterans primarily, talking about anything else other than war. And whatever gets me there that's what I do. And I love being a dad. I love being a father. And as a leader, father, mentor, coach, entrepreneur, all those things, it's all about bringing all those aspects of my life together and making them work and having them align, right? And get it to a point where it works. So it's all about alignment. And obviously our relationship, we've known each other for a year-ish plus, falls in line with that. So today, something like a fireside chat with our team here I couldn't ask for a better way to kick off a Friday.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us. I'm going to share some stats, Andy. 1 in 5 U.S. adults experience some form of mental illness. 6.7% major depression, 18% anxiety. 1 in 10 workers skipped at least one day of work in the last 12 months due to depression or anxiety. 60% of adults with mental illness don't receive the mental health services they need, and 80% of families fail to get any treatment at all. Depression is the leading cause of disability in U.S. adults ages 15 to 44. And lastly, depression alone costs the U.S. $210 billion a year. What do those stats, how do those stats make you feel, Andy?
Well, I'm a numbers guy, I'm a stats guy, but I also live in the real world. And, when I hear, numbers like, 210 billion or 1 in 5, like it's absolutely true. And I can speak to, as a business owner, the cost. We know that the number one cost in your business, the greatest asset and the greatest liability, is engaged workers. Not even workforce. Workforce is very broad, but engaged employees, individuals that are engaged. And you cannot be engaged, myself included, as an owner of a business, cannot be engaged when you have all this other crap you're dealing with. And so we can look at stats all day, absolutely. But at the end of the day, we know that when you're disengaged from your work, when you're distracted from other things, it's going to negatively impact your life. Let's just say your life, right? Because work is part of your life, it's part of that alignment. And to someone, I've been deployed twice. I have PTSD. I talk about it. I live with it. It's something we talk about in the military a lot. PTS. Now they're changing it to PTS, right? Now it's post-traumatic stress. It's not disorder. It's just stress. And for me, I know when I'm having good days. I know when I'm having bad days. I know when there's a trigger that hits me. I know I need to do something different. And if I can be empathetic as an employer, empathetic as a vendor, empathetic as a customer, all those different hats you wear, that's the key. Because we can tell when people are disengaged, and a lot of times we just want to push through it, but no, you have to acknowledge it. In the military, I'm a master resiliency trainer, and two of the things we talk about is self. When it comes to the self, right? And not about self-control, right? Because all too often in society, we're like, well, it's self-control. No, it's about understanding and then also awareness, right? Understanding and awareness, right? Aware of who you are and then regulation. In the military, we talk self-awareness, we talk self-regulation, because you can't control yourself. When you're going through something like that, you have to be aware of who you are. You have to be aware of what we call icebergs, right? Those values and beliefs, those things under the surface that are driving you. And then we have to regulate. And you can't always regulate yourself, but you can choose to regulate your activities. You can regulate where you're working. You can regulate how you communicate, how you're feeling to others. And it's our obligation as employers to create a space where people are transparent. They're transparent on their good days. They're transparent on their bad days. We have employees here. We have PTO like everybody else. And if someone's like, I'm not coming in today, that's it. Shoot me a text. Good, got it, good. Then I'm going to follow up. Well, let's talk about it. And if you don't want to talk about it, well, what resources can I provide? And if you do want to talk about it, it's not, hey, this is the first time we're ever going to talk about mental health. No, we talk about it every day. Not just, hey, how's your day going? No, what challenges you face today? And having those conversations. So when things do come up, we're having a conversation because we know it's going to impact the bottom line. We know people have challenges outside of work. So I think about my life in three phases. I think of life in three phases: the hustle, the struggle, the grind. The hustle of do the things to get where you think you want to be. The struggle of I'm on that mountaintop, but there's just a little bit more. I got to push through it, right? That struggle moment. And then the grind. You get to that point where it's the good stuff. Acknowledge the struggle. Acknowledge that your employees are not going to give you 100%. When I hear an employee, especially in an interview, I'm going to give you 110% every day. No, you're not. Right? If you give me 80% every day, I'm happy. And there's going to be days when it's 60, and there's going to be days when it's 90. And there's going to be moments in time where it's 100. And so it's our obligation. I use the word obligation as employers, as leaders, as mentors, to acknowledge that people are going through some stuff that you can't always see, you can't always understand, but you can feel it. And you got to understand it and recognize it.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, we are dealing through a pandemic here, and your team has responded very nimbly. So what are some of the challenges that your team is facing right now in light of the pandemic? And sort of, I respect that although you had the concept to pivot your business into environmental cleanup last year prior to the pandemic, how are you able to nimbly get your team to mobilize quickly in this new business model? So sort of two questions. One, what are some of the challenges your team is dealing with? And two, how has your team responded to that change and that flux in your business?
Yeah, whenever there's this thing called a transitions from A to B. This is a thing that occurs in the world. I look at transition as very transactional, that transition being from a very linear thing, right? But what has to happen is a transformation. In order for a transformation to occur, you have to go through the loss of where you were first. We look at what's going on with the pandemic. It's similar, and I relate it very similarly to returning home from a deployment. Not everybody has PTSD, but everyone goes through a transition of loss. And you go through the 5 steps of the grieving process. And that's where we're at. You have to recognize at some point you're going to be angry, you're going to be in denial, you're going to be depressed, you're going to isolate. But at some point, you have to accept the fact that this is reality. Not a new reality, not a new norm. This is reality. And so we went through that. At first, I was angry. I was angry that I closed one business on February 29th, and I was launching a new business line on March 1st. And then, 10 days later, I find myself, I was in Vegas at the airport, and they're talking about shutting down the NBA. And I'm like, wow, I just bet all my chips, and the fuck, right? As an entrepreneur, I did all the planning. I did all the research. I spent, to your point, a year and a half before launching this business line. And now all of a sudden, boom, bottom gets, blown out. And then you bring that to your team and you're like, you know what, I'm pissed. And everyone was pissed. And you have to start going through the grieving process. And so recognizing that awareness, right? Where is the organization? Where are you as a leader within the organization? I can remember a month ago, Evan, our videographer, if you I'll do a shameless plug, he's best videographer in Milwaukee. Right? A lot of people have met him. Evan Brown, if you want to check it out, EBM, Evan Brown Media. Anyways, he works here full time. We had a no shit conversation. He's looking at me right now. We had a no shit conversation in the kitchen right there about a month ago. And I said to him, hey, this is before PPP. This is before relief. This is before we got through that struggle. We were still on the peak of that struggle. And I said, hey, we're going to run out of money. I can't tell you. That's it. And when it comes to business, we know the first thing you cut is advertising and marketing. It's the first thing you cut, right? Because when things are good, you're like, well, we don't need advertising. Things are good. When things are bad, you're like, well, we ain't got no money for advertising and marketing. And I made the same mistake that everybody else did. And since then, people are like, I should have kept my advertising. I should have pushed through. But emotionally, you pull those dollars. So I told, I call him Bobby. Told Bobby, I was like, Bobby, I'm not going to be able to pay you in a couple of weeks if something doesn't change. If we don't land a few contracts, if revenue doesn't change, if we can't sell off some of these liabilities, you're not even the first to go. All of our hourly employees are already having reduced hours. We already cut our operations staff in half before the stay-at-home orders because we already knew that we were going to take a huge dip, and I wanted to protect those employees. But I stood right there and I said, there's a good chance that you're going to get laid off. So finish the projects you have on your plate, but we're not going to schedule any more shoot dates. And he freaked out because he's a creative type, and he's just like, okay. And he finally stopped. This was like a 30-minute in-depth conversation. He's like, okay, stop, fine. Just tell me when to stop working. Just tell me. Just call me. Just talk to me. Just tell me never to come in again. That's fine. That's what, and that's how he dealt with it, right? And as a leader, I had to recognize that the conversation was kind of over. I got out what I had to get out. I mean, he was at the back door 2 steps away from leaving for the day. I was like, oh, by the way, you might not have a job next week, right? But I had the conversation. Mm-hmm. And then as a leader after that, right, in reflection, I thought, okay, I planted the seed. We're at the ground level, right? We are as low as we're going to get. Oh, that's a hell of a place to build a foundation. And by the next day, I'm like, okay, this is what we're going to do. I've set the expectation. If we do nothing, this is what's going to happen. But if we do something, we might go the opposite direction. And from that, it set in motion. Everybody here realizing, because I had that same conversation with every single person. Hey, this is where we're at today. And it doesn't have to take a pandemic for you to have those no shit conversations with your employees. Because after that, the conversations about, hey, we're going to go do this, we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and let's shoot that, right? Because every day we have those conversations. We had a great conversation like 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, kind of, a heart-to-heart on a Saturday afternoon, because we went and did a shoot on a Saturday morning, right? Because we're grinding, we're pushing, putting in hours. And on a Saturday afternoon, we're talking and jamming because, coworkers, employer, employee, friends, all that other. We're just two humans that are connecting. We are two humans that are struggling, and we're all struggling together right now. And so if there's anything we learn through all this, we're all struggling with something together. This is an opportunity for us to check ourselves at the door, recognize each other, recognize the challenges we're going through, because we all just sat through the same shit together. Yeah. This is an opportunity for us to come together as people and recognize that we all just went through some struggle. So we can be open, we can be honest, we can be vulnerable, we can be patient, we can be understanding, we can be empathetic, we can be all those things, but we got to choose to be those things.
Absolutely, and thank you for that. And I'm thinking about you giving the example of somebody needing the day off, PTO, and you saying, yeah, absolutely, take your day, and then let me understand. So what type of dialogue is occurring after that, and how can leaders and other people observing on this call today be more observant? So what signs are you looking for? And I don't mean the pandemic, I mean in general, when an employee, I like how you said, like, let me expect 80% of my team. If I get 100, fantastic. But everybody's dealing with some shit, right? So what are signs as a leader that you can look for, and how do you exercise empathy with the team?
It's simple. It's the same way I approach every conversation. You be proactive and then organic. Proactively engage with your employees. Have the same discipline. When I think about certain employees here, right, there's a cadence to what we do. Being proactive, having those conversations, calling people to ask them what they need from you. Be a serve leader first. If you serve your people, they'll give you what they need. So it's not like, oh, after this occurrence or as it happens. No, be proactive and then organically take in the information. Get rid of those bullshit sayings of, how's your day going? How are things around here? No, right? Figure out a different cadence. Even if it's as simple, right, as, hey, what's the best thing to happen yesterday? What's the best thing to happen today? What can I help you with? I hate the word help because people don't want help. I don't want help. What can I support you with? We have an employee right now that's looking to buy a house. Okay, well, I bought a house one time. Let's talk about that. What's your budget like? What's your credit score like? How much money do you have set aside? Where do you want to live? Do you have a realtor? Let's just talk about that. And when you have that conversation, then you have the conversations that they want, which is sometimes, hey, I'm struggling, or I need, want, or desire this. And then as an employer, you've earned the opportunity to say, hey, this is what I need from you today. It's a two-way street. Again, I said at the top of this, our number one asset is an engaged employee. And so you have to engage with them. If you just say, hey, how's everything going today? And be like, fine. Well, that's what you're going to get out of it. Fine. Not bad. Good. I had someone reach out to me today, right? They have a job. Well, they reached out to me because they're looking to move. Why are they looking to move? They're disengaged. And they see an opportunity. Even among a pandemic, they see an opportunity right now with a different organization. And so proactively, I was like, hey, this is what I'd like to meet. When can we meet? Virtually or otherwise. What's right? I just say, hey, right off the bat, when I've talked to people the last fewer days here, as people are starting to go out, regardless of restrictions, people are going to self-isolate because people do what's good for people. I've been asking people at the beginning of this, and now as we're coming out of the safe at home piece, right? Coming out of it, we're not out of it, right? We're coming out of it. I ask, hey, do you want, when's a good time to meet virtually or in person? Give them the opportunity. If someone says, hey, I'm comfortable virtual, cool. If you're comfortable in person, also cool. So give people those options, and then leave things open-ended. Don't ask the same conversations. Build a cadence so the employees, from the second you interview them to the day that you're doing your exit interview, know they can always come to you. And if you do that, you'll be aware of it. And then allow people to have bad days. People are going to have bad days. Shit's going to happen. Boyfriend, girlfriend are going to break up with them. Kids are going to be up all night. Mom or dad or grandma's going to get sick.
Yeah, I mean, so with that being said, you highlighted on being a servant leader, and being a leader certainly comes with a price, right? You're an empathetic, in-tune person to your team and the people around you that you support, whether it's Young Guns, all the organizations, the veterans that you support. That's a lot to take on oneself. And I mean, I'll even speak personally. My journey, I see a therapist on a weekly basis for the last almost 4 years, and it's been extremely helpful, and it makes you be sort of more reflective and introspective on yourself. So tell me a little bit, Andy. I know about your story. You've had some fantastic TEDx talks, and you're very open, which I respect and appreciate, sharing your journey with everyone. How is all of this and your day-to-day, this with the pandemic, but in general, you take so much into yourself. How has this and your day-to-day impacted your personal mental health as you personally struggle with PTSD as well?
I love it, right? Sat down with Urban Misfits, Quentin Allums, great creative type here in Milwaukee. I lean on him a lot, and I've sat down and spent a lot of time with him. He was part of our Young Guns movement, and him and I got talking a while back, and we kept using the analogy of Thanos. Who is your Thanos, right? What is Andy fighting, right? Yes, I'm an advocate for veterans. I'm an advocate for the environment. I'm an advocate for, being an engaged father, right? Those are all good things. But human nature, right? We kind of like conflict. And through conflict, you have growth, right? So I think about my environmental responsibility. Well, what am I fighting? I'm fighting landfills. I don't want to have landfills out there. So I'm going to fight landfills. I'm going to do everything I can. Landfills are the enemies. I got to have an enemy, right? When I think about being a parent, right? I'm going to fight this perception that dads can't be as good a parents as moms. I'm going to fight that perception because I think I'm a damn good father, and I try really hard to be an engaged father. And I do all those things because I want to fight that perception that when I walk in the grocery store as a single dad that I'm less adequate, or I've done something wrong, or I don't deserve the same amount of time and love, for my child, right? So there's something to fight. When I think about veterans, right, I'm fighting PTSD. I'm fighting this notion that veterans are either these people we have to absolutely glorify or vilify. Veterans are people. We have to accept veterans for who they are, their strengths and their weaknesses, recognizing they're not the greatest thing ever, they're not worth the thing ever, they're just different. We treat them fairly, not equally, because no one is equal in this world. We treat them fairly. So in all those areas of my life, I have something to fight. And so we talk about that, and I talk about it with Quentin quite a bit. But I talk about keynote speaking. Well, who am I fighting? I'm not fighting the audience, right? Those are my allies. I'm not fighting the perception because I don't want to be, I'm not political. I don't want to just attack somebody. But now with this pandemic, for me, it's re-energized me. I'm fighting something. I'm fighting for something, entrepreneurs. I'm fighting for people of Milwaukee. I'm fighting for like-hearted individuals that want to go out there and plant their flag and be successful. I'm fighting for something, but what am I fighting? And I don't want to fight, the government. I don't want to fight Trump more than I want to fight Evers, more than I want to fight, Mayor Barrett. Anybody? I don't want to fight a person, but I want to fight this idea. I want to fight this idea that no, you can't. Because yes, we can. There's a drill sergeant Lefevre, back in 2004 in basic training taught us something, right? They always say, are you an American or an American? Right? What are the last four, right? What are the last four letters of American? I can. Stupid. 16 years later, I still remember it, right? He also spelled done, D-U-N, because we spelled fun, F-U-N, so done is D-U-N, right? I give him all the credit in the world, Drill Sergeant Lefevre, being a great mentor and leader in my life, and I remember those things from 16 years ago when I didn't know anything about anything, right? But now, with what's going on in this world, I feel like, wow, everyone's a little vulnerable. Everyone's willing to talk about the struggle. People are willing to put themselves out there, whether it's on social media, on webinars, or just picking up the phone. I had a soldier, a leader, one of my staff sergeant, that was a squad leader of mine years ago. He called me at 12:30 2 nights ago to tell me I needed a haircut. And he told me if I don't get a haircut, I need to go down to his house in Pleasant Prairie. He's going to give me a haircut because I look like shit. And he said because of my picture on Facebook, he said I look depressed. Right? I haven't talked to this guy. I talk to him once or twice a year. But because of what's going on, he realized, hold on, Andy, I'm going to reach out to you at 12:30 at night, right? And we had a kind of a no-shit, soldier-to-soldier conversation that normally happen at that hour. And normally one of us or both are drinking. That's just, unfortunately, the way those conversations happen.
It's cool,
but
man.
Through all of that's, right, that is what it is, right? Whatever. But through all of this, we finally have something to fight. And I'm good with that. I love conflict. Right? Conflict has a negative connotation, but I love conflict. I hate controversy. I don't like drama. I don't like bullshit. I love conflict because we grow through conflict. Right now, we have conflict. And the beautiful thing about it is it's not a person. It's not a country. It's not an idea, right? All those things that we fight, typically, no, we're fighting a virus.
Yeah.
Right? We're fighting for our freedoms. We're fighting for our safety, right? Those are kind of opposite ends of the spectrum, right? Do you want freedom? Do you want safety? But we're fighting this virus, this pandemic. And there isn't one solution that fits all. It takes a collective.
Yeah. And, talking about, I respect the shit out of you because you're born this way, right? To run to the challenge, run to the fire, run to the fight. Not everyone is born with that innate kind of instinct, right? To run to the fire. It's fight or flight, right? So
good. If we all run to the fire, we're all going to burn. That's it, right? Not everyone can run to the fire. Awesome.
Yeah.
We had a no-shit fire across our street a week and a half ago. A no-shit, the building was on fire, right? And I drove up. I was like, that's smoke. That looks like fire. So what I do, I park my Jeep. I go over because I want to look. Everyone's looking. I was like, oh, that's a real fire. Police show up. The owner comes out to go unlock his gate. He had a sliding gate with a chain around it and a lock. Brand new owner of the building. Didn't have a key. So I'm like, okay. I ran back into my building, grabbed the bolt cutters, ran back, ran towards the fire, got close enough where I could feel it. And he's like, and I can hear the owner in the background yelling, there's a fuel tank. Like, we got to get it in there. The police were there. Fire was not there yet. Fire department wasn't there yet. And I'm sitting there with the bolt cutters trying to break this lock, right? And I cut two ends of the chain and popped it open and got it open and slid the door. And I can feel the fire. And now it's kind of rolling. And everybody else kind of took care of themselves. Other people were watching. The cops were coordinating off the area. Passerby stopped and looked. Some people were moving their cars, right? One of our employees was running with me until we got to a point where we could feel the fire, and then he stopped, right? And I'm right. But then as soon as I got there, as soon as I did my part, I left, and the fire department went a lot farther into it, obviously, than I did. So it takes different people at different stages to run into the fire, and that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Right? Chiefs, Indians, cooks and chefs, whatever analogy you want, but it's your obligation, if you're a business owner, your obligation as an entrepreneur or as a leader to run towards shit. You can't expect other people to run farther than you go. Right? Now, I wasn't leading the fire department. I wasn't leading the police. I wasn't leading, nothing else. But there was one other employee that was near me, and I went farther than they did to show them, you know what? It isn't safe necessarily. It might be dangerous, but I'm willing to go before you. That's your obligation as a leader. But right now, if that means you don't take a paycheck before they do, that's what happens. If that means they get to go back to the office before you do, or whatever that looks like, you gotta be a servitude leader.
Amen, Andy, and hell yeah. Like the perspective that you gave was interesting because I'm very much let's charge the hill, like, and run into the fire. And sometimes even personally, I'm like, God, why isn't everybody running to the fire? But you gave great perspective in that everyone plays their role in the challenge or the fire. You've got the firefighter, but then you've got the cleanup crew, and you've got people to support and do the rebuild. And that's awesome perspective and a great lesson. And I think for the entrepreneurs and the business owners that we have on with us today, it's great to hear that, because I think a lot of us get really stubborn headed about why aren't people running to the fire more often and embracing the challenge. But you're absolutely right. Everybody plays their role. Talk to me a little bit about, you going back to my question about how you are handling your personal mental health. Everybody's got sort of their person. So who's your person? Who do you go to when you're like, gosh, my load is heavy today. I need to call somebody and talk through this with them?
Well, I don't wait till my load is heavy, right? Again, it's that proactive, organic, and it's not a person. It takes a team, right? I mean, hashtag tribe. I mean, whatever, if you're on the Instagrams, you want to be, right? But team, tribe, network. I don't care what word you use, right? It takes a team of people for me, and everyone has their team, right? And you got your nucleus, and you got the other people, and you got the other people, right? It takes a team of people, and you go back to the people that were there when you needed them the most, the people that have always shown up. That's where you go back to. We all have those friends that, they're there when they, they need you, but never there when you need them. You know what? I got rid of all those people in my life. I can name those people off. Nope, not on my team. This is Andy's team. Andy is going to be selfish with who he surrounds himself with, because no one else gives a shit about my mental health as much as I do. Yeah. And they shouldn't. No one else is in charge of my mental health as much as I am. Yeah. Whether it's my mental health, my physical health, my emotional health, no one is in charge of it more than me, right? So you said you have a team, you have a counselor, right? Or a therapist, psychiatrist, psychologist, whatever it is. I've had a counselor. I've had a psychologist. I've had a psychiatrist. I learned that the difference between a psychologist and a psychiatrist is psychiatrist gives you drugs. Who'd have known, right? And I learned that because at one time I didn't have a team. So I took my ass over to the VA and said, hi, my name is Andy, and I need support. I need a team. And then you realize what those people do for you, right? It's like you know it from the business, right? People don't remember what you said. They remember how you felt. So you remember how you feel when you unload your problems on somebody else. You remember how you feel when you get empowered. You remember how you feel when you conquer that hill. And you find other people in your life by proactively searching them out and organically getting those feelings back. So if you want to talk about who, right? Who's the first person in my life, in the world? My ma. Still close to my ma, right? I love my ma. Most people that know me or have visited this building have met my mom. If you're lucky enough to get her cooking at a networking event, you've done well, right? My mom's cooking's on point, right? She was one of the first people. I told my mom years ago, she was the first one. She, not even my dad, it was her money. She invested in her first company. And I told her at some point, I'm going to be successful enough where I'm going to hire you so you can quit your bullshit job. And it took about a year and a half, 2 years. She quit her job. She's been here ever since. So she's been with us here as an employee for 2.5 years. So my mom's here every day. Right? My brother. Start with people you know. My best friend and battle buddy from Iraq. My squad leader from Iraq. 2 other guys that are my squad from Iraq. Guy I went to high school with that also owns a business. Even here, I can see, right? I got Andrew Zell, who is hashtag Hey Zell, because we joke, if you need something done, you just Hey Zell it. You throw it out to him and he'll fix it. Right? And Evan Bobby Brown, right? Because they're here all day, every day. They hear me when I'm vulnerable. They hear me when I struggle. They're here for me. And then, that's like the nucleus. And then as I'm going out network, I do a lot of networking. I reach out to other people. I joke, I got 5 or 6 different advisors and coaches. I don't pay any of them. I just lean on them for advice every now and then. And those people I reach out to, Pat Miller. Pat Miller, the ideas coach. I met him about 1.5 years ago. And when I'm struggling, he's the guy I call, right? Pat Miller is my guy. I call him at 7:30 this morning because I had a question for him. And then you add these people in. And there's the people and then you realize that people also include you in their tribe. And they call you. And then you have to say, oh shit, okay, hold on, I recognize who I am to this person, right? And maybe you're their biggest advocate. And then they give you something in return. But you got to build that. And then also, like, you know, I've named off my drill sergeant, I've named off other people, right? Give credit where credit is due and reinforce that connection. Because it feels good to me every time, whether it's serotonin or whatever, it feels good to me every time I mention those mentors that got me here today. Giving gratitude is extremely rewarding because it brings back that memory of that person that taught you that thing at one point that you will cherish and take with you forever.
Yeah, that's such an amazing point. And I actually just said to a friend of mine the other day who's trying to start a business, I'm like, hey man, you're only as good as the 5 people you surround yourself with. And that was my next question for you. And you already hit that nail on the head. But I think it's amazing that you have built this support system around you, but you did it inadvertently. What I hear is that you did it through being vulnerable, being grateful, being yourself, giving, being generous to others. That tribe formed around you naturally. And that is such an amazing feeling to have. And especially as you get older, you start to weed out, like you said, those people who you know just are not good for your mental health. And you have a young squad. So what are some of the things that you suggest to your team to assist with their mental wellness? Is it get a mentor, get a coach, you can do it and you are doing it, but you can't be the only one. So what do you usually recommend to your team members and the young guys that you support?
I just tell them, do the fucking thing. Whatever your thing is, right? And also know what people's things are, right? I mean, my brother, for example, he does woodworking. My mom does stained glass. Zell does graphic design work and also rides his bike on the weekends. Evan shoots his drone, right? I go down a list of every single person, right? What their thing is, what their why is, what their passion is, what is their release. You know, I think about a month into the pandemic, Zell's like, hey, I got to leave. I need to drive, right? I just need to go out and drive. He coincidentally got himself lost, drove through Lannon and got a speeding ticket because that's what Lannon does to you, right? But why? Because he's got a little GTI, right? He's got a little GTI, right? And he just needed to drive, right? Because he hadn't drove his car in a month. He just needed to go somewhere, got himself a speeding ticket, right? He'll fight it because that's what he does. But like, that was his thing. That was it, right? What is your escape? And figure out what that is and then encourage that behavior. Because for me, it's being on my phone all day. That's right. Talking to people all day, right? I will kill my Bluetooth. That's 6 hours. I can kill it twice in a day on a good day, right? That's my thing. I just want to spend time with other people talking to them. We were joking before we came on here that my Friday is basically sitting around talking with all my favorite people, right? This morning I was doing some teaching and coaching for Boots to Business, which is veteran entrepreneurs. I'm talking to you now. And then right after this, I'm going to be on the Go Get It podcast with Richie and talk about what it's like to be a business owner during this time, right? And then after that, I got a couple phone calls. I'm going to head to Chicago and pick up my daughter. That is, you teasing? Plus, it's supposed to be 70 degrees out. Chalk this up, right? What is the best date right now, right? I don't know. There's whatever. It's supposed to be April 25th or whatever that joke is from that bad movie, right? Whatever today is, right? Today is the best day. 70 degrees out. I'm working my ass off, spending time with people that I know, like, and trust. And I'm going to hang out with my daughter, and we're going to play on our place in the backyard. And it was her birthday last week, and we have a birthday party. Fuck, today is the day. That's my thing. I did everything. I worked, I talked, I spent time with vets, I'm spending time with my daughter. Chalk it up. DUN, done. But everyone's is different. Your job as a leader is not treat people equally. Your job is to treat them fairly. Recognize their triggers. Some people are going to work 40 hours a week and leave at 40 hours in 1 minute. Other people will give you 30 hours. Some other people work 60. Some people want more vacation than others. Some people want you to leave them alone on the weekends. Others say, hey, why don't you send me that email on Saturday because I could have thought about it before, just getting slammed with it Monday morning. Yep. Recognize the people on your team. There is not one size fits all, but your obligation as a leader is to understand everybody at an individual level and then encourage their positive behaviors, right? And then discourage negative behaviors. Right? You can have that no shit conversation, right? We all have things that we're bad at, right? And we all have things that are not conducive. And sometimes, right, people blow off steam. Okay, got it. You had that thing. You did the thing. Was that good, bad, or no? It wasn't very good for you? Okay. Maybe we shouldn't do that again. right? There's someone that used to work for me, and about once a week, maybe once every other week, she'd have a meltdown and yell at somebody at the office, whether it was a customer sometimes, or a vendor or an employee, whatever. I just told her, simple, whenever you feel that way, call me. You can scream at me for 5-10 minutes. I'm not going to listen to how you're yelling, but I will listen to what you're saying. Since then, that was probably 6 months ago, maybe a year ago, hasn't had an issue since. Because she's in a place where she has no one that lets her vent, where she feels like it's her time. She feels like, so fine, you yell at me, I'm the boss. I don't care. I'm not going to hold it against you. You can scream at me all you want. And when you give people that permission, they're like, oh, all right. And then she'll call me, hey, I just need to yell at you for 5 minutes. Okay. And then she yells. And I'm like, okay, based on what you're telling me, this is what I'm hearing. Cool. You want to go for a walk? Go home, take your dog out, get lunch. And most times she says, no, I just needed to do that. Okay, cool. So now that we've done that, right, index, now what are you going to do moving forward? Okay, I'm going to do this moving forward. Because there's something in there, right? It's three sides of every story, right? His, hers, and the truth, right? So I'm going to hear her side. I'll listen to what I think the other person's side is, and then I'll give a truth. And the truth doesn't have to be what happened. The truth is what you're going to do moving forward.
Yeah.
Okay, you know what? Some people suck. Got it. So next time you encounter someone like that, are you going to, right? The way you react is a reflection of you, not a reflection of them. And then we break it down, right? Break it down Barney style. You're like, oh, okay.
Absolutely.
So there you go.
Absolutely. And I think we got a quick shout out from the audience, which reminder to the audience, if you want to submit any questions for Andy, we can absolutely take those as well. It wasn't a question, but it was a shout out saying this is great, real content. And also we love Mama Eileen. Your mom got a shout out.
Who said that? I want to know who's giving Mama. Who is that? We'll give them a crowd.
That was Paige giving Mama a shout out.
And yeah, Paige. Paige, what's up?
I have been in the building when your mom was hooking up some grilled cheeses, and man, did that building smell good. But
yeah.
So thinking about moms and parents, obviously so many business leaders and employees had to quickly pivot to being an employee, being a leader, and also doubling down on parent duties because everybody's home. And so you're a dad, or a girl dad, I should say. And I've seen you paint her nails. I've seen you do her hair. You said she had her birthday, or she has her birthday. You guys are going to party. Talk to me about that being your most important role. Being the girl dad that you are. How is that your most important role?
What's there not to love? There's a line Mel Gibson's character says in the movie We Were Soldiers. He plays a character of Lieutenant Hal, or what's his name now? I'm going to forget it now. Mel Gibson's character, We Were Soldiers. Zell Google it real quick. I want to say Lieutenant Colonel Hal Moore. Lieutenant Colonel Hal Moore. Yeah, all right, just took me a second. And there's a line, he's talking to a new father, new lieutenant, in a chapel inside the hospital. He says, what is it like being a leader of soldiers, being a new officer, and also a father? So he says a line, I'm paraphrasing here, that being good at one will hopefully complement being good at the other. And I went from finding out I was deploying to 2 weeks later finding out we were pregnant, and knowing that my daughter was going to be born and she was going to be a baby infant before leaving for deployment. And I was in a tough spot in my marriage. I knew I was going to be a single dad. Just knew it. We were already on the struggle bus, and it wasn't good. And we're both phenomenal parents. I'll say that about my ex. I think she's a phenomenal mother. But we weren't good together. And I knew that. And I thought she was going to be a good mother, and certainly she is. So going into being a father, I find out, in 2 weeks period, this would have been in August of 2013, find out you're going to be a father and you're going to go on and be deploy as a soldier. And I was a platoon sergeant at the time, so I had about 38 soldiers assigned to me at the time. How do you go from one to the other and then back? And I struggled because you can't be both at once. And I recognized that. And so through the deployment, my daughter was 5 months old when I left. She was about 18 months old when I got back home. And And so during the deployment, right, my dedication was to the Army, and my dedication was to being a military leader, not to my daughter. And I know that. And as much as I saw her on FaceTime, there wasn't a connection there. And so when I came back home, I said my life, all the other aspects of my life, have to align with being a father. So first thing, right, being an entrepreneur, well, I have the time, right? I set my own schedule. In the military, I re-enlisted after that, but I was fortunate enough through some promotions and then a lateral transfer, I promoted into a position where I have flexibility in my schedule. So now, for about 3 years there, 3.5 years there, I had my daughter every other weekend. And I would drive down to Peoria, Illinois, 7.5 hours round trip. I'd pick her up at noon at daycare so she could sleep from noon to 2:30, her normal sleep time, her normal nap time when she's 18 months old, and drive home. And then Thursday afternoon, we'd have the same cadence. We'd stop here at the building, say hi to my mom, say hi to some of the employees. We go to the grocery store, we go home, we go to the park, boom, boom, boom. And then Fridays, most Fridays, I would either work from home or I would come into the office for an hour or two and she'd be part of it. I grew up on job sites. I want my daughter to grow up on job sites. I want her to know that when I go to work, it's not this abstract place. She knows that her Uncle Ikey is Andy's work friend. That's how she referred to him for the longest time because she would see Uncle Ikey at work. And then all of a sudden it's like, we're at Christmas or Easter, and she's like, well, why is Uncle Ikey here? You're not at work, right? Because she associated it with, right? And it was great. But from that moment on, right, when I have her, it's dad first. Has to be. And when I'm at work, it's work first. So I would live my life in 10-day periods. I would work for 10 days. I'd have 4 days with Penny. And then we started doing the exchange in Chicago. And it was to a point where I would, this when I was traveling quite a bit, I would drop her off on Sunday afternoon at 4 p.m. and I would be at O'Hare at 5:15, and I'd be getting on a bird for a 6 or 7 o'clock flight. And I would fly that week, or I'd fly the next week where I flew into O'Hare at 10 o'clock in the morning on a Thursday morning to go pick her up at 11. That was my life for a year plus when I was traveling. And then, my weekends, I have 4 weekends a month. That means Penny gets 2 of them, the Army gets 1 of them, and Andy gets the last one. That's fine. So that was it. So those 4 days I had Penny, she got all of my time. The 10 days that I had to work, okay, if I'm going to work 10 days out of every 2 weeks, I'm going to work those 10 days. I'm going to work 10, 12 hours a day so that when Penny's in town, if I got to put a couple hours in on a Friday, that's fine. That's life, right? You got to put in the time sometimes. So what does that mean? That means wake up early, work late, bring Penny to work so she can be part of the experience. Saturday, Sunday, nope, that's Penny's time. And then the second I drop her off, we shift gears and go right back to work. And now our schedule is a little bit different. I had her for a whole week of spring break in the pandemic with a 5-year-old. You know what? We had so much fun. We watched the movie Onward about a dozen times. I think it was just always on in the background. I would ask her, hey, what are we doing tomorrow? She made a list every day. She made the list. This is what we're doing tomorrow, right? And she had one day was lazy time. We didn't get out of pajamas all day. That's what she wanted to do. I made it to the mailbox. Okay, so we made it to the mailbox, and conveniently, it was also on one of those days it rained. Okay, so we were lazy butts, and that was a great day. And then even then, when we're working, what I realize she hates when I'm in my office because now there's a barrier between us. But if I move my laptop in the kitchen, she'll sit in her bedroom and she'll play in her bedroom for an hour or two at a crack, whether it's LOL dolls or Barbies or Ninja Turtles, whatever. She just wants to look out and see me every once in a while. She wants to know that I'm accessible and available. Nothing else has to happen. She just doesn't want me in my office because to her room is her room and my office is my office. So I just stopped going to my office. And then I realized, you know what? How much work do I really need to do today? Well, I do this thing that I need to do, and the rest of the time it's her time. Whatever that looks like. Right before the pandemic, I had a play set that sat in my yard, like half assembled for about 3 years. And the day before I picked her up on that Friday afternoon, called 3 guys I know and said, okay, let's build this thing. And in 2 hours, built it. She was ecstatic. We played on that for an hour or two every day. So yes, you have to be proactive. But then organic, enjoy the time. Yeah. There's no email, there's no invoice, there's no attachment that's more important than the time I have with my daughter. None.
You're so right. And I've heard you light up when you talk about Penny, and you're a hero, Andy, to a lot of people already, and you're clearly a hero to her already. And being a girl dad comes with a hell of a lot of responsibilities. what is the most important lesson that you will teach Penny in her life?
Be you. Unapologetic you. You can be afraid. You can be all these things. Just be you. Don't compromise. All right? If you want to have breakfast sausage and pancakes every morning, do it. If you want to put ketchup on your pancakes, you do you, honey. Right? Fine. As long as you sit at the table, right? Whatever. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
The challenge is, and you see this, I see this, I don't know what you see, but I see this a lot, where you see a lot of stuff about empowerment. It's like, go back to your childhood, go back to where you were when you thought you knew everything and really knew nothing. Go back to that imaginative self. Go back to who you were before society beat the shit out of you and told you not to be you, right? Well, fuck that. As a parent, it's my obligation to tell her, nope, you do you from day one. You know, you get picked on at school, who gives a shit? Right? I started wearing camel pants 4 years ago to networking events because a mentor of mine, Mervyn Bird, told me by one of my very first one-on-ones ever. I didn't know what a one-on-one was. This was a guy who was eating coffee with at Panera. I thought it was a waste. Why are we buying $4 coffee when I got my Keurig? I make my 36-cent cup, right? Fine, we're going to go to Panera. But he was buying, so whatever. I brought my brother, right? 2 coffees. And we sat down with him, and I said, hey, what am I supposed to wear to networking events, right? And he's military, USMC type. So I felt really good about, I'm going to talk to this Marine. What do I wear? He's like, wear what you're wearing now. I was wearing camel pants and a t-shirt because that's what I wore when I worked construction. I'm a veteran-owned business at the time. Got it. So I started wearing camel pants. I can tell you, those first 6 months of networking, walking into rooms with camel pants, people didn't know how to take me. They wanted half the people wanted nothing to do with me. The other half were intrigued. I was at Costco yesterday wearing camel pants and my mask, doing my Costco jam. You know, I got my eye on the prize. I'm going to get my sharp cheddar cheese, nothing else. And the guy says, hey, Andy. And I turned around. I was like, what's going on? Didn't even recognize him at first. Like, here's a, middle-aged guy with a mask. Like, is that your dog? What up, dog? I don't know. That's fine. Shit happens. That's all right. What's up, dog? He's like, hey, Andy. And I turn around. He's like, yeah, I've been watching what you've been doing, blah, blah, blah. Right? All he saw was this tall, skinny joker walking through Costco with camel pants. Now it's like, we were talking before this, like, how many pairs of camel pants you got, right? For those first 6 months, year, it was daunting walking into every networking event, knowing I was going to get the look. When I walk into Empower HR, right, it's 40, 50, business attire individuals, and I walk around and ride the Razor scooters in my camel packs and $0, right? Because I'm a customer, I do what I want. And now when people see me in jeans or whatever, this rare, sighting, it's like slightly disappointed. But it's because I went back to who you are, right? As a kid, we were talking the other day at Mother's Day. I seen my mom, and my mom was joking that, she would ship me up to my grandparents' farm every summer, and I had a pair of overalls. I wore these overalls 3 or 4 summers in a row. Just the overalls, no shoes, no shirt, a little skinny little butt, blonde hair, tan as could be, perfect skin, running around the fields, playing on the tractors, jumping on the hayloft, running through manure. I had boots. I had these little boots. I had to put the boots on, little rubber boots. I had to put those on when I went into the barn so I could run around and not step in manure. And that was it. And my mom said that every year she just changed up the straps on the overalls, and that was it. And that's what I wore for 3 summers straight, because I didn't want to put on a shirt. I didn't wear a hat. I didn't wear socks. I didn't wear shoes. That was it. Ship me up to the farm and let me run. So you know what? Let society's going to beat the shit out of your kids. They're going to tell them what they can do, what they can't do, how to think, how to dress, how to act. Ain't nobody got time for that.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Ain't nobody got time for that. Right. But take that same lesson. Let's go back to what I said earlier about Lieutenant Colonel Hal Moore, right? Take that same mentality to your employee workforce. About 6 months ago, I was at a Sussex Chamber speaking engagement, really good speaker, owning an insurance company, and he was talking about HR. And they had this dress policy that was 2 pages long, and he changed it to 2 words: dress appropriately. Right? Because if you're going to be client-facing, you know your clients. Dress appropriately. Right? It's a commission-based job. If you're going to be in the office all day, whatever. And now, look, how many people are taking Zoom calls without pants on? Why? Because it's appropriate. Well, you're only going to see this much, right? I can tell you got pants on today, no big deal, right? But that's it. There you go. Hey, I ain't here to judge. That's God's job. I'm busy, right? But do you, and tell that to your employees.
Yep.
Work within the standards of the organization. These defined left and right limits, right? Because we are an organization, we have culture, we have ethics, we have, limitations, work within the standards. But if it don't matter, it don't matter. Look how many people all of a sudden, now we see all this, could have been an email, right? How many meetings could have been an email, right? How many 1-hour meetings are now 15-minute huddles? How many people could have never worked from home because we need you in the office, and now it's like, you know what, I get more done when I'm at home.
Yep.
So right now, with what's going on in the world, recognize your employees at an individual level and tell them, do you. This is what I need from you as a leader. As a leader, this is the distance and direction the organization is going. This is the pivotal role or the pivotal responsibilities. Let's say responsibilities, not even role. These are the responsibilities for the team that you are in charge of. Right? Here's the authority to do that thing. This is the distance and the direction. That's the why. That's the why and the where. You tell me your how. This is what I need. What? I'll tell you what we need. But how you do it, individual effort.
Yeah,
and then the individuals create the collective.
Yeah, totally. We had our All Empower Hour yesterday, and we reinforce and live our purpose every day. We deliver what matters through authentic connections and relentless accountability, and our purpose should tie to your purpose, your why. By the way, you got a shout out from Mervin, and I was going to say the same thing, but Mervin got to me first and said, or got to you first and said, now it's your brand, bro. Very recognizable. The fact that you own me is exciting, but but Andy, you're so right. And we've got 8 minutes left, and I want to go back to the beginning when you talked about all of these roles that you play coming back to your why. And to me, it was pouring rain here yesterday, and a couple of us were talking about finding the light and the beauty in the rain and finding the light in the darkness. And we've gone through a dark time in the last few months here as Americans, as human beings. And I've chosen, you make the conscious choice to say, we're going to find the opportunity. We're going to go inward instead of outward and reflect on what this pandemic has meant to us. Tell us what is your true why? Like, what is like, this is my why, non-negotiable. This is who I am. And tell us how you found the light in this darkness.
So it's real simple. It's funny you brought that up, right? So here is, you probably can't see it well, but here's my Facebook feed, right? And yesterday I did a 6-second panorama, because there I was, 6 o'clock, what time I posted? 7:05. 7:05, I was out sweeping the yard, because we don't have a warehouse guy right now. We can't afford to have a warehouse guy. And my brother had left for the day. He had something to do. Everyone was gone. 7:05. I just got done sweeping the yard, and everything was wet and it was sticky. And you know what? The last thing I want to be doing is sweeping the backyard, because you know what? I'm the damn CEO of this company. But you know what? As soon as I started sweeping, I was like, man, does this feel good? I'm just doing the basics. I'm getting back to where I started. And then I thought, I'm listening to music in my earpiece, and I was actually listening to a song that I used to listen to in Iraq a lot. And it brought me back to that time when, you know what, sometimes you just got to survive the day. And then as I was doing it, I thought about Staff Sergeant Sunheimer, the guy that said that my beard and my long hair and my angry face have this feeling that I'm depressed, right? Now I'm just, whatever, I'm growing a beard because I can. And I took this video of me smiling and laughing and joking, doing a panoramic. Why? Because I saw a break in the clouds. And so I put this up real quick. I used to write poetry. A lot of people don't know that. I had a published poem back in high school. I don't think I've done anything since, but I write poetry from time to time. It's stupid, but I have these just stupid ideas. I just want to share them with the world. So I put this up. I said, when you work through the storm, you appreciate every ray of sunshine through the clouds. Stay safe, stay sound, stay spectacular. Because it was true of yesterday, right? And yesterday the weather was perfect for what we had just gone through Wednesday with the safe at home order lifted. Well, we've been going through as a society. Let's not forget, people started self-isolating before we were told to. People started coming out of isolation before they were allowed to. We are all going through this individually. We're all going through the collective thing together, but we're individually going through this. So even in that moment, you ask what my why is. It's very simple. My why is to spend time with veterans, talking about anything else other than war. That is my why. I realized that why about a year ago when I was sitting at the Butler Inn in Butler, Wisconsin, with my accountant, who's Big Daddy Bang Bang, because he was also in my squad in Iraq, right? So Sergeant Bagan, but I only know him as Bang Bang, Big Daddy Bang Bang, because one day we're in a training mission. We're out in the field. We were out in the field training in the snow in Indiana, getting ready to go to Iraq. How stupid is that? And he hated being up in the turret on the gun because it was cold. It looks really cool in the movies. We see the guy that's up on the 50 cal on the Mark 19 automatic grenade launcher. It looks really cool. I can tell you it is windy. It is nasty. It is sandy. It is a shit spot to be. And I remember it was snowing that day. And the night before we went on mission, this training mission, they said, all right, Bagan, you're, specialist or private Bagan at the time. You're on, you're up on the 50. And he's like, Big Daddy Bang Bang. Why? Because he embraced the suck. He didn't want to be there. He was actually in the inactive ready reserve. He was like a year away from being completely out of the military, overweight, demoted, basically dropped out. And the Army said, hey, it's 2006. We need all the bodies we can get. You're going. But in that moment, he was Big Daddy Bang Bang. In that moment, he appreciated the fact there's nothing I can do about it. I'm going to be this person. You need me to be up in the gun? I'm going to be that. A year ago, as I'm sitting at the Butler Inn getting my best $20 steak and lobster, a little surf and turf at the Butler Inn, best $20 you can spend on a Tuesday. Right? Hey, shameless plugs to all the places I took you to the Butler Inn. We had lunch there. It was classy. Right? Okay. So as we're sitting there, I realized it was the first day in like 6 months that I laughed uncontrollably. It was the first time that I felt great going home from work. It was the first time that I felt like, wow, it all makes sense. And we had a shit day. There's a reason I was meeting with an accountant, right? It's almost never a fun conversation with your accountant. We weren't talking about the money. We're talking about, right, how we're going to survive this next transition. But I realized I spent time with a veteran. We weren't talking about war. We weren't talking about where we had been. We were talking about where we are today. We talked about our purpose. The challenge with a lot of people in society, and I'm guilty of it too at times, we talk about the past, right? That shit don't matter. It happened. We're here right now. Or we talk about the future. That ain't here yet, right? Think about the future at your own. Talk about your future and your why. I'm going to spend more time with veterans, talking about anything else other than war, but right now it's in the present. It makes sense. Mervyn Berv gave a shout out, right? Other veterans are on this call. I'm spending time perfecting my craft. I'm spending time doing the thing. That's my why. And you don't just sit down one day and say, I'm going to write a why statement. This is my why. I did that, right? But it's like your mission and your vision statement for your business. Go out and do the fucking thing. And in reflection, think about those highlights. Think about that fire that's burning internally. What is repeatable? That's your why. If you can figure that out, that's what burns no matter what. When it rains and it pours, that's that ember that stays hot. There might not always be a flame. It might take another spark to get it going. You might have to add fuel to the fire, but that's that ember that always remains hot. Yeah. So as we go through this transition right now and forever, understand what that ember is. You can always get more logs. You can always build a bigger fire. You can always move your fire. But you got to have that thing that burns. Yeah. It's your responsibility, going back to the top, talking about mental health. It's your responsibility to keep that hot, to nurture it, to nature it, to mentor it. If you don't make your mental health a priority, it will extinguish. And let's think about how difficult that is to get that fire back, how difficult that is to get warm. And don't forget, when you're on fire, right? Be the light for other people. Be the advocate. Be the fucking champion. Yeah. Be the person that says, I was there too. I got out of this hole. I've done it before. I'll do it again. But let me join you in your hole. Let me support you in this time. Be the light. And then eventually, if everything works out, you'll be that beacon. You'll be that person, that idea, that thing that other people that are buried in the hole, they look up and they see you. And you can spread your message. You can't get in every hole with every single person. But if they can see the light, they can see your fire, you're giving them hope. Right now, we need hope. Doesn't matter what our leaders have or have not done. We need hope. Be that hope for your tribe. Be that hope for anybody and everybody that will listen to you. Be the fire. That's your challenge. That's your charge. It's your obligation. It's your challenge. It's your charge. Look at it as an opportunity.
Andy, this has been such a moving conversation for all of us. Appreciate you tremendously. You have everyone in the fields this morning. Appreciate your light, your fire, your grit, your authenticity and keeping it real with us this morning. You got one last shout out from Carmela. Andy, I need you to move to Racine and run for mayor. For the rest of you on the call, on the chat this morning, you have Andy's contact information here, obviously up on the screen, his email, his information about his business, and then we have a link at the bottom, resources on how to get mental health assistance, and we have some resources up on our website as well. Andy, everyone in the audience, thank you for the time this morning. Andy, we love you. We're happy to have you in the Empower family. Forever grateful for your conversation this morning.
No, thank you. And I thank you for the opportunity and those that are joining us on our journey. So thank you to you.
Awesome. Go crush the rest of your day. Happy birthday to Penny. Bye, guys.